Visit Tudor Place February 6th through April 21st to experience the new installation, Ancestral Spaces, People of African Descent at Tudor Place. Curated in collaboration with the descendant community, this guided tour gives voice to the enslaved and free people who lived and worked in this historic house and recognizes that the site was supported by forced labor for generations. Tours are available Tuesday through Sunday. Advanced registration is recommended, but not required, at tudorplace.org. Once again, that's tudorplace.org.
Today on CityCast DC, we are talking about Washingtonian's annual ranking of best restaurants, and we're talking with the magazine's lead critic, our pal Ann Limpert. Plus, CityCast's Priyanka Tilve and I are going to talk again about your favorite subject, lanes, road lanes. But get this, we're talking bus lanes, not bike lanes, where you could soon get a ticket. And there's an update on the sexual harassment investigation in the mayor's office. Today is Friday, January 26th. I'm Michael Schaefer, and here's what DC is talking about. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
So, Anne, it's like it's like Oscar night for
Super
you.
Bowl,
Oscar
Oscars, all the things.
Washingtonian has done this list for 50-odd years, and you have a new winner this year.
We do. The top restaurant this year is Causa, which is a Peruvian tasting room in Shaw. Happens to be right next to last year's winner, which was the Dabney. And it's wonderful. I mean, it's a 6-course tasting menu that kind of takes you through Peru. And it's a place that's just firing on every cylinder. Like, cocktails are great. The wine pairings are great. The space is beautiful. The service, I mean, I sat down and the server said, "We're going to be spending a lot of time together tonight." And I thought, oh God. And then at the end, I was like, I don't want to leave you. You're great.
And I should say, in the interest of full disclosure, that I got a meal out of this 100 best restaurants. Anne and I ate at Albi, which is wound up at number 3, which is a Palestinian restaurant. And it was number 1 in my book. I thought it was awesome.
You said that the barbecued lamb was the best thing you'd ever eaten.
Incredible.
See?
It was great.
You know, it's funny because last year, Anne, we had you on to talk about this list, and we asked you about what restaurant on the list was like especially interesting to you or really stood out to you, and you said Causa.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, you did. And at that point, it was number 8, and now it's jumped up to 1. And I'm curious about what gave it the edge.
I mean, it was pretty new, and so it's just a little bit more fully realized. But it was a very competitive year.
One thing I noticed is last year, we talked about this, the suburbs killed, but this year the top 25 are almost all inside the District of Columbia. Is that luck of the draw, or is there any reason why?
I mean, actually, I feel like this was a really good year for the suburbs, especially the Virginia burbs. I mean, you had Ellie Bird, you had June and Tyson's made our top 25, less so in Maryland. But I mean, I think DC is still just where a lot of the energy is.
Will you tell us about your process? Because a lot of people I know when you meet people, not that they know who you are because your identity is secret, but people are always curious, fascinated about your process. And as someone who used to sign your expense reports, I can tell you it's some serious investment.
It's not a cheap process.
What do you do specifically? I know what you do when you review a restaurant, but what do you do specifically for making this list of best?
So we basically start with the winners of the last couple of years. We revisit all of those, lots of newcomers. I think about this list all year long. And then we try and find like the places that are kind of like the hidden gem type spots. We get a lot of suggestions from readers. And, our reach is pretty wide. Like, we have a restaurant in Annapolis on this list. We have a restaurant in Middleburg on this list.
Oh, wow.
So it's very much not just DC. It's, we spend a lot of time driving around Maryland and Virginia.
What's also amazing is, if you go back like even 30 years, or certainly 50, it was all like, or very heavily French traditional restaurants. This year you have Peruvian number 1, French number 2, the Levant number 3, an American place, a Japanese place, Italian, barbecue, all within the top 10. That's kind of amazing. Tell us about what's exciting in each of these, or some of these categories.
I mean, one of the places that I'm most excited about is Beloved Barbecue, which is in the Love Makoto Food Hall. And it is a Japanese style steakhouse where you, sort of similar to Korean barbecue, you sit at a big table and you cook your own meat. But they focus on two types of beef, Japanese A5 Wagyu and American Prime. And so it's kind of interesting to taste them side by side, but it's super delicious. And you don't have to, there are plenty of other things on the menu if you don't feel like, searing steak at the table.
Wait, and that's like in a food hall. Can you just show up, or is it recommended, particularly now that you have shone the light on them, is it recommended that you make a reservation?
I mean, it's a really nice dining room. I mean, it's in the back of the food hall, but definitely like one of the anchors. I would for sure make a reservation.
Something that stands out to me, and I know a lot of people who look at this list, is that, I mean, and Mike touched on this, it's pricey. Like a lot of these places are kind of expensive. And so I was excited to see some of the places that are more affordable on the list. Can we just quickly talk through them so listeners can maybe try to check these out? So the first lower end place that I see on here is Gemini. That used to be Happy Euro, right?
Yes. They changed the name this past year and they changed the format too. It's now a natural wine shop by day, mostly carry out at night, but not all. You can actually, there's room to kind of stand around and snack. And there's now like a very short pasta menu. Everything changes there all the time. But, last year it was pretty much only carry out.
Okay. So they expanded just slightly. Okay. So that's at number 6. And then 10, you've got 250, which is barbecue. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then I'm just going through the $1 sign ones. So then the next one's at 21. You've got Inferno Pizzeria, which is in Darnestown. And then at 25, you've got Chicatana in Columbia Heights, which is Mexican. And I had never heard of it. And I'm very eager to go check it out. What is special about Chicatana?
It's, again, like a humble storefront with really, really interesting food. Chicatana, I believe, translates to, it's like a type of ant in Mexico, and they use ants throughout some of their dishes. But yeah, I live pretty nearby and I just discovered it.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to go try ants there. So those are all of the $1 sign ones in the top 25. But I was just excited to see some at all, to be honest.
In the balance, when people want to go out and have like a lovely night on the town and stuff, for a lot of people, the excellence of the food is one piece of it, but also being in a nice room that feels comfortable or luxurious or cool or whatever it is that you're looking for. How do you balance those two things out?
I mean, I feel like there's plenty of that on this list too. What we're looking for, 98% of it is really amazing food. But, sometimes that's in a wine shop and sometimes that's in a strip mall. So I think you can kind of look at this list and you will find what you're looking for if you're looking for like an anniversary dinner. I mean, that's also one of our goals is to, tell people, restaurants are not cheap these days. We all know that. And to help people decide where to, really splurge.
I'm curious, how of these 100 that you picked, how many of them are new, like not new to the list, but new in the sense that they didn't exist a year ago?
Probably about 15, I would guess.
That's pretty good. Like to be new restaurants and to make it into the 100 best for DC.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That says a lot about the way that our restaurant industry is evolving and the new spots that are coming in.
I feel like this list was probably, I haven't done the numbers, but the heaviest on Japanese, which I feel like has always been strong here. But besides Love Makoto, there's Capo, which is the also very Wagyu focused tasting menu spot in the Palisades. There's Nashime, which Nashime has been around for a while, but it's hidden away in Old Town. It's one guy that does a 5-course menu every night. The place looks like a T-Mobile store and the food is just super interesting. It's a really cool spot.
I know the 100 best list is all about celebrating the best, but people do always love a good diss. Is there any prominent restaurant that tumbled or failed to make the list or surprised you by where you wound up ranking it?
Yes. I mean, we thought a lot about this, but the Inn at Little Washington did not make the list this year.
It is not one of the very best restaurants. What went wrong?
Yeah, it's the only 3 Michelin star restaurant in the area. And It wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad even.
It wasn't terrible.
No.
Says Washingtonian's food
I
critic.
don't want to make it seem like it was this total flop, because it's not. It's not. There's like plenty of lovely things about it, but we really, especially at that high level where, dinner is going to run you over $1,000 for two.
Oh my gosh.
We expect magic. We expect, every dish to hit it out of the park. We expect really, sharp service. It doesn't feel rushed. But we expect to be made to feel somewhat special in the dining room. And we didn't really encounter that this year. Their menu format has changed a lot. It's sort of one of those places that changed during the pandemic to a smaller menu. Prices went up. So you feel like you're getting a little bit less and spending more.
I know we got to move on to the next topic, but do you ever get people messaging you angrily in situations like this?
Yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I know. I get very excited about the list coming out, and then I have to kind of brace myself for the wave of
oh man,
angry.
Don't send Anne hate mail. She's so lovely.
I would just say, as a editor, word to the wise in the restaurant community: if you complain about a bad review, that often tempts food critics into restating their reasons for giving the bad review, which means that instead of having one negative piece of publicity, you have had two. So maybe make those messages to Anne private.
Good point.
Let's be real. Lawsuits are not fun. But with Paulson & Nace, at least they're a little easier. Paulson & Nace is a DC law firm in every sense of the word. It was founded here in 1979. The two partners, Chris and Matt Nace, were both born here and are local leaders who care deeply about the DC community. Paulson & Nace handles medical malpractice, wrongful death, and other complex injury cases when someone has been hurt by the negligence of others. And they don't just settle every case. They'll go to court. They'll fight for you. Paulson & Nace has even been recognized as one of U.S. News' best law firms. So, if you have been hurt or have lost a loved one because of someone else's mistake or negligence, call Paulson & Nace for a no-obligation consultation. Visit www.paulsonandnace.com or call 202-463-1999. So, in much less pleasant news, friend of CityCast and occasional guest Alex Coma, the Loose Lips columnist of City Paper, reported this week that the city has, at long last, hired an outside law firm to investigate the sexual harassment situation that led to the departure almost a year ago of John Falchicchio, who had been the key aide in Mayor Bowser's administration, the economic development chief and chief of staff. For those who don't remember, Falchicchio resigned abruptly. It emerged that there was at least two staffers who he had harassed. The mayor had her office, her in-house lawyers investigate. They corroborated some of the allegations, said some the others couldn't be corroborated, and left it at that. Council wanted more. They wanted to have sort of a more comprehensive look into the culture around the mayor's office, sort of broaden the scope of the thing, and they wanted it done outside.
Right, because I mean, how can the mayor's office investigate itself? Come on.
Yes, right. Not somebody who might be having lunch with colleagues.
Yeah.
In sort of a classic municipal government situation, there was all kinds of complications with letting out the contract and so on. They've finally got it out to the law firm Arnold and Porter. It should be back sometime this spring, so it'll have been more than a year since Falchicchio left. What's weird here, it seems to me, is Bowser had kind of dragged her feet on having an outside investigation in the first place. But it seems to me that's like the best way to make it go away, is to say, listen, these are what we heard from people who have no skin in the game and are not biased. And I don't know, if it was me, I would probably want that to happen as quickly as possible. And the whole delay, it's just weird.
Yeah, I agree. It really does feel like it's been forever since Falchicchio left. And I think, I mean, the longer that you wait to corroborate any sort of details like this, the fuzzier people's memories are and the harder it is to prove anything, really. I mean, like, you asked me what I did yesterday, and I have a hard time recalling.
Did you sexually harass someone yesterday?
1000% not, to be clear. It helps that I work from home. But no, like if you ask me what I did on a random Tuesday 6 months ago, I don't know. And I definitely don't remember the every single interaction I had. So this is really disappointing. I understand that it's bureaucracy, but I just think that they should have taken this more seriously in a way, which I think is the whole culture that we're talking about. Like that's the problem.
I mean, one of the things that really shocked me was that the woman in the initial complaint had no one to report it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's wild that there's, nobody in the mayor's office that she felt like she could go to or was appointed to handle.
Right. And the mayor's own sort of appearance of defensiveness about this is, I don't know that anybody would think she is a malicious actor here, but maybe they had a sucky system that she inherited and didn't change. And some light from the outside will help change that. I just kind of political intensity around it, as if it's a conflict, just seems really weird and misplaced.
Yeah. I mean, and also knowing that everyone, the fact that Falchicchio was harassing people was an open secret in government. So they had a long time to have addressed it. It shouldn't have taken this resignation for them to finally be considering changing up their policy or looking into how to make things more transparent or give people an avenue for speaking out if they're feeling unsafe at work.
But look at, I think historians, when they write their comprehensive history of Washington, D.C. in the 2020s, that resignation is going to loom pretty large because, there's a lot of people who will say, look at the city, they got caught blind with the Capitals and Wizards moving out of town or announcing they wanted to move out of town. There's a bunch of crisis kind of stuff that kind of might not have happened if this guy had been on the job because he was very good at, or said to be very good at that part of the job and kind of a good intel of sort of what was going on in the business and economic scene. And who knows what would have happened if he had behaved himself.
Yeah. If there had been stronger policies in place or Bowser had been stricter with her friend, or like if he would have been pushed out earlier and someone else would have been trained better to take his place.
Yeah. All right, so from the big and citywide to the very particular bus lanes. I don't know if you guys ever drive in them. I sometimes do. I sometimes feel like I can't help it because you have to go through one to take a right or something. But anyway, the city is apparently going to start. Apparently, it hasn't been ticketing, which I wish I'd known. But apparently, it's going to start. What's happening? Bianca?
Well, I mean, don't hold your breath, though. I mean, because they've been pushing this off forever. But in theory, on Monday, they will start fining drivers $100 for driving, parking, standing, or stopping in the bus lanes. They were originally going to enforce this rule last fall, I believe in September, but they've, like I said, been pushing it back. It's already a finable offense to do any of those things in a quote unquote bus zone, which is like basically near a bus stop, like 80 feet if you want to bring out your tape measure on either side of a bus stop. So you already can't, again, park, stand, or stop in those areas and you'll get a $100 fine. But starting Monday, even driving or parking or standing or stopping in the bus lanes will result in a fine. And they're going to catch you because there are cameras mounted on the buses, which I'm sure people are going to be angry about. I don't know if you can hear, but there's someone banging like pots and pans outside my window. And I'm going to pretend that they're mad about the bus lanes. But ultimately, this is probably a good thing because it's supposed to speed up and improve bus service. Like the idea is that buses are supposed to get to use the bus lane so that they can get people to where they need to go fast. That's what public transportation is meant to do. And because of all of these other drivers parking and stopping in the bus lanes, the buses can't zoom through. And that's why when you're staring at the Metro app, like this bus is supposed to be here in 3 minutes and it was supposed to be here in 3 minutes 10 minutes ago, it's probably because the bus is stuck behind a bunch of other cars in the bus lane. And hopefully this will get rid of that problem.
So the buses are narcs.
Yeah, they are.
What else can those cameras catch you doing?
I'm actually not sure. Probably speeding, but I'm not sure if they're going to be fining based on those cameras. Though they have other cameras across the city for that. So
I'm told.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten some tickets that way. So beware. The Clear Lanes program, which is what they're calling this like bus lane traffic situation. It's the first program in the country to use automated bus mounted cameras to enforce bus lane restrictions. So the buses are narcs like no other buses are.
Is there anybody who is not happy about this, who acknowledges being mad about this? When there was talk of enforcing bike lanes, or which I realize is different because it's adding something new, that spurred a whole kind of backlash by people who don't like bicyclists and think it's anti-car. I'm wondering if that dynamic showed up here.
Oh, sure. Yeah, not to my knowledge, but I do know that a lot of people are skeptical this is going to have the effect it's meant to have because enforcement is really spotty. DC in general has a really hard time enforcing fines. The only tool really at their disposal is to ultimately boot and tow cars that are linked to speeding or other traffic violations like driving in the bus lane. But there are only 4 crews in the city that are assigned to booting. And so it's really hard for officials to target high risk drivers. And then there aren't reciprocity agreements with Maryland and Virginia. So if you've got Maryland and Virginia drivers driving in the bus lane in DC and then they just go back home, DC can't get them.
Wait, meaning like if you're from Virginia and you get a DC ticket and you don't pay it,
yeah,
nothing's going to happen to you.
Yeah, because they can't find you. The DC police spokespeople have even said that police don't have access to driving records when they make a traffic stop, and they don't keep a list of license plates linked to people with bad driving records. So a Virginia driver could come into DC, always and exclusively drive in the bus lane, get a bunch of tickets, go back to Virginia, and then even if they are caught speeding or something in the district, that police officer is not going to know they're the same car that was driving in the bus lane for all these months. So like, I hope people follow this rule. I hope that this fine is, I don't know, a deterrent enough, but I guess we're kind of doing a disservice by advertising the fact that this enforcement's so bad. But the fact is that they should improve enforcement.
Priyanka, awesome to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too.
And thank you for being here. I'm so glad you came.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. Our senior executive producer is Priyanka Tilve. Our senior producer is Julia Karen. Our newsletter editor is Kayla Cote-Stemmerman. Our production assistant is Ash Durbin. And our hosts are Bridget Todd and me, Michael Schaefer from Politico. Music is by Alex Roldan. If you enjoyed the show, why not put our logo on the back of your car and then idle in a bus lane, and it'll be picked up on one of those cameras on DC Metro buses. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye.
It's like someone's banging on a pot and pan right outside my apartment.
I think it's the Inn at Little Washington people. They're trying to disrupt us.
I know.
They found us.